So we're all after happiness, right? But doesn't it sometimes feel like the goalposts just keep moving? Well, today, we're going to dig into this huge psychological trap that keeps so many of us running in place. And more importantly, we'll look at a really old, kind of surprising solution for finally stepping off for good.
All right, let's just jump right in with a question that I think will probably hit close to home for a lot of you. You know that feeling you finally land that dream job, you get the big promotion, or heck, maybe you win the lottery. You are absolutely ecstatic, just on top of the world. But then, give it a few weeks, maybe a few months, and that incredible feeling, it just fades. And you're right back to feeling, well, pretty normal. So what's going on there? Why does that happen?
Well, there's a name for this, and it's called the hedonic treadmill. And the name is actually a perfect metaphor. Just picture it. You're on a treadmill. You can sprint as hard as you can towards some amazing goal, that big win, and you feel like you're getting somewhere. But inevitably, the speed of the treadmill just brings you right back to where you started, your baseline. It's this incredibly powerful, invisible force, and it's the reason why chasing one external thing after another so often feels like we're just running in place.
So, okay, how does this thing actually work? I mean, what's the mechanism that's always pulling us back to square one? Well, it all boils down to this really fascinating idea called your happiness set point. Think of it like a thermostat for your mood. You know, you can have these huge life events that crank the temperature way up or way down, but our brains are basically wired to sooner or later bring the temperature right back to that original setting. And here's the really wild part, the kicker, really. Studies, especially on twins, suggest that something like 50% of this set point is just genetic. It's baked right into our DNA. Now, this whole idea of a happiness set point isn't just a theory. It was really put to the ultimate test in this landmark study all the way back in 1978. What these researchers did was pretty clever. They decided to look at people who had gone through the most extreme life changes you can possibly imagine, just to see if anything could permanently shift that emotional baseline.
So, they looked at two groups on the absolute opposite ends of the spectrum. In one corner, you have recent lottery winners. I mean, the ultimate positive life event, right? Instant wealth, total freedom. And in the other corner, they study people who had just gone through a horrible, tragic accident that left them with paraplegia, a truly devastating, negative, life-changing event. And the results, well, they were just astounding. Absolutely shocking. The lottery winners, once that initial crazy high wore off, reported being no happier, on average, than a control group of people who hadn't won anything. They just went right back to their baseline. But here's what's even more mind-blowing. The accident victims, though of course they were devastated at first, also, over time, trended back toward their original happiness levels. It was this powerful proof that even the most extreme things that happen to us have a surprisingly small effect on our long-term happiness.
Okay, so this leaves us with a pretty big question, right? If chasing the next big thing is just like running on a treadmill, going nowhere, are we just doomed? Is lasting happiness a total myth? Well, how do you get off the treadmill? It turns out the answer might not come from a modern-day self-help book, but from a philosophy that's over 2,000 years old.
And that brings us to Stoicism. It's an ancient Greek and Roman philosophy that has a really surprisingly modern take on happiness. The Stoic philosopher Epicurus just nailed it with this quote, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them." Let that sink in for a sec. What he's saying is, it's not our circumstances that make us happy or sad, it's our judgment about those circumstances.
And look, Stoicism isn't just some dusty, abstract idea. It's better to think of it as a practical, battle-tested operating system for the human mind. I mean, for centuries, this was the go-to philosophy for everyone, from merchants haggling in the marketplaces of Athens, all the way up to the most powerful man in the world, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who literally used these principles to handle the insane pressures of ruling an empire. So here's the absolute core insight of Stoicism, the real game changer. Most of us think that an event leads directly to a feeling, right? A traffic jam makes me angry. A promotion makes me happy. But the Stoics said, wait a minute, there's a crucial step in the middle. They said it's event, then our judgment about the event, and then the feeling. The traffic jam itself is just traffic. It's neutral. It's our judgment. This is terrible. This is ruining my day. That's what actually creates the anger. And that little space between the event and our feeling, that's where all our power is.
And like I said, this wasn't just some high-minded theory. Stoicism is super practical.
It actually comes with a whole toolkit of mental exercises, real practices designed to train your mind to make better judgments and build incredible resilience.
Okay, the absolute cornerstone of this whole toolkit is something called the dichotomy of control. It's basically a simple filter you can run any situation through. You just ask yourself one question: is this in my control? And if the answer is no, things like the weather, traffic, what other people think of you, then the Stoic path is acceptance. You don't waste energy on it. But if the answer is yes, things like your own thoughts, your own actions, your judgments, then that's where you put all your focus. You act with what they called virtue, which really just means being your best self. It's all about putting your energy where it actually makes a difference.
And beyond that main filter, the toolkit is just packed with these practical exercises. For instance, there's negative visualization. Now, this doesn't mean being a pessimist. It means taking a moment to imagine losing the things you value: your job, your health, your loved ones. The goal is to appreciate them more right now, and also to be a little more prepared if things do go wrong. Then there's cognitive distancing. This is huge. It's learning to see your thoughts as just thoughts, not reality. So instead of thinking, I'm a failure, you learn to say, I'm having the thought that I'm a failure. See the difference? It creates this little bit of space. And finally, there's philosophical journaling. Just taking time each day to reflect on how you acted, what you judged, and how you can do a little better tomorrow.
So let's bring this all full circle. How does this ancient toolkit, this 2,000-year-old philosophy, actually help us with the very modern problem of the hedonic tread?
Well, it really comes down to two completely different ways of looking at life. The logic of the treadmill says happiness comes from the outside. It's about chasing the next win, the next promotion, the next purchase, which ultimately leaves you stuck at your set point. But the Stoic toolkit offers a totally different path. It says happiness is an internal skill. It's something you build by mastering your own mind, by choosing how you respond to things, no matter what life throws at you. It's a massive shift from focusing on what you can't control to focusing on what you can.
And you know what? If a lot of this is starting to sound familiar, it absolutely should. This ancient philosophy is basically the grandfather of a lot of modern psychotherapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, which is one of the most effective therapies out there today, its core idea is pure stoicism. It's not the event, but your thoughts about the event that cause your feelings. And other modern therapies, like acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, are built on these exact same Stoic principles of acceptance and living by your values.
And we're not just talking theory here. Modern science has actually put these ancient ideas to the test, and the results are pretty compelling. For example, studies on programs based on these ideas like Stoic mindfulness and resilience training have shown a measurable, significant reduction in negative emotions, up to 23%. So yeah, this ancient wisdom has a real powerful impact right here, right now.
So in the end, this paradox of happiness really just boils down to a choice. We can stay on that hedonic treadmill, forever chasing the next shiny object in a race that, let's be honest, has no finish line. Or we can take a page from the Stoics book and choose to step off the treadmill entirely. We can decide to stop trying to change everything around us and instead work on changing our perspective from within. Which kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Is the secret to happiness really about getting more, or is it about learning to want what you already have?